Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's Telegram underscore Sam underscore vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me out on there. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of these videos lately, the 10 albums I've listened to the most. I know this was a thread that was going on like a month ago in the VC, but hey, at least I'm showing up to the party even though I'm a bit late. Um, but yeah, I've been watching a lot of these. I've seen people do like the albums that they think they've listened to the most in their lifetime to people who just do the albums they've listened to the most in the last month. I'm kind of doing an in between, kind of doing the last 2 to 3 years, aka since I started making videos and started really taking record collecting seriously. But yeah, these are in no particular order. These are just in the order I grabbed them off my shelves as I was trying to think about the records too I reach for the most. But yeah, let's get into it. First up, we have Electric Mud by Muddy Waters. Yeah, this is definitely a go-to blues rock album for me. This was an interesting time in blues history. This was 1968, I believe. Yes, this was when a lot of blues artists were trying to sort of electrify their sound, even though they were already playing electric instruments, but essentially just trying to cash in on the hard rock blues that a lot of white bands were doing that they weren't profiting from, even though they were sort of the creators of that. Again, kind of like just trying to make money off of the sound they created and that white people and white bands were exploiting. But I think this is such a great album. You have I Just Want to Make Love to You, Hoochie Coochie Man, Let's Spend the Night Together, She's Alright. I think She's Alright is the song where he's doing this crazy guitar solo and then he just smoothly transitions into doing My Girl. It's just one of my favorite like guitar solos ever. I'm a Man, Tomcat, same thing. I just love this album. Muddy Waters is probably a blues artist I have the most of in my collection. Maybe Howlin' Wolf might be a tie, but I just love this album. Next, one I showed in my last video and I actually played a song from, Heart Shaped World, Chris Isaak. If you saw my last video, you know how much I love Chris Isaak, especially this album. This album got me into his music, especially, Wicked Game, the song pretty much anyone knows by Chris Isaak, but there's just so many great songs on here, like the one I played, Blue Spanish Sky, Wrong to Love You, Forever Young, In the Heat of the Jungle, Kings of the Highway. I just love him. I just love him. Yeah, love this album. Always play it, especially when my mom comes over and visits me. She also loves Chris Isaak, and I always have to throw this one on. Next up, a very different album than the one I just showed. This is 36 Chambers, Wu-Tang Clan. I love hip hop and rap, and this one is a game changer. It's like there was before and after this album. This is one of those albums that I think everyone should have in their collection, no matter what kind of music you listen to. And this is always the one I recommend to people who are trying to get into rap or hip hop. But yeah, Bring the Ruckus is on here. Clan de Front, Protect Your Neck, Cream, that's a good one. Method Man, Tears. Yeah, Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. This is just one of those essential albums I think everyone should have, and just one I always turn to when I'm just in the mood to listen to, rap or hip hop. Next up, we have Bad Brains self-titled album. Yeah, just a game-changing album in punk and hardcore. It just has always intrigued me, their mix of, punk and hardcore, as I said, with reggae, these two almost polar opposite genres you would think, but how they blend so easily together, and just such a game-changing record. You have Sailing On, Don't Need It, Attitude, Banned in DC, Super Touch, Shit Fit, Leaving Babylon, Big Takeover, Pay to Come, probably the most well-known song. But yeah, just game changing. Anyone who's into punk or hardcore music, if this isn't on their like 10 best of lists, they aren't true fans of punk or hardcore. Such a ground changing, fucking kick ass, still shreds to this day album. Next up, another self-titled album. This is Queens of the Stone Age self-titled debut. This is the 2011 version that has a few extra tracks on it. I did recently just get the reissue of how the album was originally released back in 1998, I think 98 or 97. But yeah, this is just one of my favorite Queens albums. I just love them. One of my all-time favorite bands, and this one just hits me in all the right places. You have Regular John, If Only, Walking on the Sidewalks, You Would Know. Mexicola is probably up there as one of my favorite Queens of the Stone Age songs. You Can't Quit Me, Baby. Yeah, just again, another one I really kind of gravitate towards during the summer. This one I always throw on heavily during the summer. It just gives me hot summer in the desert, Joshua Tree vibes. All right, next up we have, I think, another self-titled. Yes, The Zombies. This is my OG mono copy, probably one of the better sounding records in my collection. I just love this album. I personally think this is a better album than Odyssey and the Oracle. You have She's Not There on here, Tell Her No. What More Can I Do? It's Alright With Me. Woman, Summertime. I love their version of Summertime. Can't Nobody Love You Sometimes. I Got My Mojo Working. I just love the Zombies, and yeah, I just love them, and I love this album. It's a beautiful sounding copy. I think you can still find like pretty cheap original mono versions of this album for semi cheap, like $30-$40 if you look in the right places. But yeah, I just love this one. David Bowie, Let's Dance. I have to say, this might be up there as one of my favorite David Bowie albums. I was having this conversation with one of my coworkers, and I was listening to David Bowie in the kitchen, and we were talking about like what we think our favorite David Bowie albums are, and this one was the first one that came to mind. Either this or Loud Sane are kind of like contenders for me, kind of depending on what day you ask me, but this one just hits the spot for me. This was the first Bowie album I had, so I religiously listened to it. I think it was like the first like 20 or 30 albums I ever had. Found it, I think, for like $4 at some random antique store somewhere. But yeah, you have the track list is on the back. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, Modern Love, China Girl, Let's Dance, Ricochet, Cat People, Shake It. Even though David Bowie kind of talked badly about this era of his music, he famously called it his Phil Collins era. I just love this album. I just love it. It's just that album, like, if I bring someone over and they want to listen to a record, I'll just throw this on, because, like, who doesn't love David Bowie, especially the songs he did on this album? So this is kind of like the people pleaser album that I always throw on. But yeah, Let's Dance. Next up, I also have a lot of movie soundtracks in my collection, and I would say there's like 3 or 4 that I tend to heavily gravitate towards when I'm just looking to like reach a certain vibe but don't know what artist or album to listen to, and this one is just the one that hits me right every single time. Of course, a Quentin Tarantino soundtrack. It's Death Proof. This just has such a great mix of like 70s soul rock. You have The Last Race, Jack Nitzsche, Baby 2 by Smith, that's some Ennio Morricone on here. You have Jeepster by T-Rex, Stagger Lee by Pacific Gas and Electric, The Love You Save May Be Your Own by Joe Tex, The Coasters, Dave D, Dozy Beaky, Mick and Titch, Willie DeVille, just April March, her Chick Habit song is on here. And because this was the album I listened to like 3 or 4 times the day I got to see Quentin Tarantino do his talk at the Hollywood Theater in Portland, and then like ended up meeting him at the end of the night. This just holds such sentimental value to me now, and like every time I try to like remember that day and that night, I just like throw on this album now. But yeah, I just love this album, and this movie is so underrated. Love this movie. Next up, we have The Score by the Fugees. Again, another one I just sort of reach for when I'm trying in that rap hip hop, but this to me has sort of that neo soul going on with Lauryn Hill's amazing smooth vocals. Lauryn Hill to me is just one of those like comfort singers. Just like anytime I'm feeling like sad or like down and out, I just throw on the Fugees. I still need to get the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I cannot believe I still don't have that album, but I'll just like stream it because I don't have it when I just need to hear her voice. I've been listening to her since I was a child. My mom had this album and the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill in the car with me. I remember listening to it repeatedly. One of the earliest memories I have, being 4 or 5 years old, is listening to the Fugees in the car with my mom driving somewhere and singing along to uh, to this album. How Many Mics, Ready or Not, Zealots, The Beast, Family Business, Killing Me Softly, probably their most well-known song. The Score, No Woman, No Cry. This just has so much sentimental value to me. Love this album. Nice gatefold. Alright, last but not least, one that I've really been loving lately. This is Gilded Palace of Sin, Flying Burrito Brothers. They kind of Graham Parsons just sort of took country rock mixed with psych, mixed with the whole California folk thing, and just created his own sound. I think he called it like American space folk rock or something like that. But yeah, Christine's tune, Sin City, Do Right Woman. I love their version of that song. Dark and the Streets, Wheels, Juanita, Do You Know How It Feels, Hippie Boy. Yeah, I've just been going through a really big Flying Burrito Brothers / Graham Parsons thing lately, where like that's all I've really listened to this last like couple of weeks. I don't know if it's just like the summer vibes I get from their music. Again, kind of just imagining myself being out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, just listening to this, and I can't get enough of it. I think again, it's just one of those perfect albums that I think everyone should have in their collection. All right, that was it. 10 albums I think I've listened to the most these last 2 or 3 years. Thank you so much for watching. I've been enjoying all of the other people that have put out videos on this topic recently. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.